And we're back, part three. I think he's mindful of his words. He also recognizes the pain that his father's infidelity has caused on his mother, and even his sister kind of now judges her father in disgust. So he knows what that's like, but I think it's also pushed him into this uber sensitive way of approaching life that Portia is just not feeling it. And I don't know if that's just a young person's mistake. That happens often. I think when you're in your 20s, that's why they always say your 20s are meant for you to mess up royally. And so she just wants to have a good time. She just wants an adventure. She wants a guy to like have a little more cojones than what Albie is willing to shell out. And so she all of a sudden is kind of trapped with Tanya at the hotel, and has no real escapism. But she still has her adventure, I will say. Also, we can't not talk about the other characters that also bleed into this season. We have a character of Mia, played by Beatrice Grano, who is great friends with Lucia. Let me get Lucia. Lucia is played by Simona Tabasco. Two incredible Italian actresses, and you really do feel like you're in the middle of like a foreign film. There are instances, that's why I say the screenwriters, the showrunners were really crafty in weaving all these like great hints of Italian cinema, even down to The Godfather. We also, there has references here with Melena, I think it's or Melena, especially that cigarette infamous or famous scene where she's at a, I think she's in the street slash cafe. She sits down in this beautiful black dress and she just is opting for a cigarette. The actress is Monica Bellucci, and I'll link that scene in the description box below. But there are instances of that, of like real domineering Italian presence, not recognizing boundaries. And she's so incredibly captivating and feminine and beautiful that she sits down just for a cigarette, and all these men are like fawning over her. There are instances where Harper feels that way, but it's the polar opposite. It's not, and I don't know necessarily, and maybe seeing this particular scene, does she feel feminine and attractive if she doesn't feel just bombarded and sexualized as a sexual object? Because that's what Harper feels when she escapes one particular day, and that wasn't of her own doing, with Daphne to Noto. Now, this is where we start also seeing cracks in the relationship of Barbie and Ken, because you think they're the ideal couple or coupling, and you could tell that she's boiling, in terms of her temper. She really, that was one of the purposes of visiting Sicily. She really wanted to go to this particular place. She wanted to go shopping. She wanted to pick up trinkets for the kids. And the fact that her husband, Cameron, was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I rented jet skis. That's my mission. And the fact that, again, he disregards her feelings. And she's like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. I'll just take Harper. So she kind of kidnaps her, and doesn't let her know that her intentions were to stay there for the night. Also to kind of get back at Cameron. And then we start realizing, because she starts feeling comfortable with Harper, she starts confessing that their relationship isn't ideal. It's had issues of infidelity, and she knows that of him, but she still stays married to him. Either they're codependent, there's some particular reason why she's still married to him, and also that they kind of do this often. They'll have these moments where they break apart, and perhaps, who knows, maybe it isn't really known here. Perhaps they are either willfully or unwillfully in a open relationship, because it's kind of hinted at where there's a particular scene where perhaps I think they do come back from Noto, the girls, and she's harping on calling her kids. She misses her kids extremely. And I think also Harper is under the impression, especially the way her husband is behaving when they come back, there is a sense of infidelity, but it's more on Cameron's part. I think because he was like, why did she do this? There's something there. There's just something, there's a subtext there. We don't necessarily know what has happened, other than the fact that we are under the impression, the way that Daphne hints at it with Harper alone, that perhaps her kids are not Cameron's. And the fact that they went through so much, just even in terms of her delivery, because she had to have an emergency cesarean, it's crazy. But again, you can't do a snap judgment in other couplings because you don't necessarily know. Although they seem like two buffoons, and they seem like cartoon characters of a relationship, an idealized relationship, we start seeing the cracks, and perhaps why they're still kind of together. She's okay looking the other way. So it just, again, it wraps around how ideally we would like to be progressive, like Albie would think a relationship should go, because he knows what the consequences of infidelity can, how it can spiral out of control and can break up homes. But then at the same time, does that really work for everybody? See, this is the brilliant writing that comes with this show, because it really starts to make you question your own ideology of like, oh, okay, like you can't make snap judgments. You don't know what works for you may not work for other people. And also with the, even hideous Tanya, we want to smack her in the face and be like, act your age, act, but she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that in her repertoire, in her memory bank, because it was never instilled in her. She's just a filthy rich person who treats people really rotten. And you feel bad for her because all she wants is love. She is very giving when it comes to her romantic relationships, not her assistants. But yeah, the way she goes about it and what she's met with. We also are introduced to Valentina. She's very no nonsense. Basically the Murray of this season. She's the hotel director, manager. She no fuss, no muss. She needs to get that hotel working like a fine oiled machine, and she does. But she also comes off very rigid, and then we later find out that it comes with repression. I like the way she defends herself. She's, don't come at her sideways. Don't try to flirt with her when she's not really feeling you like that. She cuts this guy off in a cafe, and I kind of did like that scene, because it's like some guys don't recognize boundaries and how creepy they can come off. But then we later realize that she's kind of like that even with her staff, and she falls head over heels for one particular coworker, which again we also see the dynamics of how when people have power and they think that they can use that to their leverage in dating, which you never should do. But thankfully she didn't go to the point of embarrassing herself, and the feelings weren't reciprocated. The girl was just wanting a friend, and didn't have that love interest reciprocate with her, Valentina. But then she's able to explore that side of herself, whatever repression she's carrying, through Mia, although she is not a sex worker like her friend Lucia, she kind of opens up the door of possibilities, because if she sees how well it's working out for Lucia, not that she's just willy-nilly let's go into sex work, she starts realizing that she has vocal talent ability, and she really wants to be in pursuit of that. So she's like, why not use what I got to get what I want? So she is able to swindle the lounge singer, who's just abysmal. Everybody hates him, including the DeGrazio, family. They're like, oh, he's awful. So she seduces him, and he has a really bad spill. I won't ruin that for you. It's pretty comedic. But she basically takes his job, snags it from under him, and manipulates the hotel manager of Valentina, and is able to kind of like, safeguard her position there with Valentina. Now, Valentina, again, she was also seeing like these stars and starting to, perhaps romanticize their possibility of a relationship, but then realizes that, like, oh, but at least the girl is open and honest. She doesn't string Valentina on. She's just like, let's get you a real partner, because I just do this every so often because I like variety. But, and now going back to Tanya, Tanya is now introduced to these other characters because her husband is on supposedly some kind of work meeting. He had to rush back to the States. And she's introduced to Quentin, played by Tom Hollander. Fabulous accent. And we are also introduced to Jack, played by Leo Woodall. This combo of Brits, and they happen to be living in lap of luxury in Sicily, although they're British. And there's a concoction of people just together partying. We have people from France, we have people from Italy, from the UK. They have a yacht, and she's just enamored with that because she feels safe. If she feels that people are richer than her, they're not in pursuit of her money. And also because they're gay, somehow she has this false security where she thinks that she's okay. And kudos again to the screenwriters, because up until this point, I think we've always just seen gay characters play the great sidekick, the supporter of the heterosexual cis female, but never do we see them like possibly menacing. So there's a spin here which I really appreciated, and everything is literally interwoven with history. I will link all those articles down below where people thought things were going. This immersed in Greek mythology. There's a hint, a nod at Hades and Persephone, and I always think, rewatching this season, I feel like it could have been a twist to that story, and perhaps the vengeance of Persephone. And I will link that information in the description box below so you can make your own interpretation of it, because the women are not the victims here. They're just not. They're using what they got to get what they want. They are not victims, regardless of what they have had to endure in either infidelity or what, unfortunately, our Tanya character, spoiler alert, but the show's been out for months, so don't come for the messenger. Though we think that Tanya is living her best life and is enjoying her time with her gays, like she calls them, on this fabulous yacht. And they even find a little friend for Portia to play with in Jack, who is everything that she had imagined. She wanted a guy that was just like, all man's man, and knows how to, approach her and be sexy and attractive. But then you start realizing, oh, there's a problem here. And in a way, she is a little bit like Tanya, but not so far off the deep end. She's quick to be like, oh, there's a problem. Tanya will take forever, and literally till the very end, to finally piece things together. So while Tanya's living her best life, Portia's distracted by Jack. But then, again, we're under the impression that Jack is Quentin's nephew and Quentin is his uncle. But then Tanya